Thank you, Laura.
Okay.
Laura, if you're still there, it looks like she tried to register as a guest, like as a guest speaker. I don't know if that'll work.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. Great.
There she is. Good.
Thank you. Okay. Chair Super, now we have a quorum, so whenever you're ready.
Okay. Welcome to the August 11th meeting of the, sorry, I have a screaming baby in the background. Hopefully that will be handled in a second. Of the Recreation and Parks Commission meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and then also do a roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner McCauley is absent tonight. Commissioner Almeida is also absent tonight. Commissioner Arata.
Present.
Commissioner Escontrias.
Present.
Commissioner Lang.
Present.
And Commissioner Varvarigos is absent. And Chair Super.
Present. Okay, great. Thank you. Commissioner Lang, can you lead us in saluting the flag, please?
Yes. So I've never done that before. So what does that entail exactly?
Oh, you just get us started, essentially.
Oh, in
It's just
saying
a
the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to
the
republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice forever. I haven't done that in so long. I was like, I hope the words come back to me.
I shouldn't have put you on the spot.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll move right along. Can I get a motion, please, to approve the order of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the order of agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay. Okay, and then I believe we did receive a blue folder item this morning. So let's see, we need to receive and file, right? Or we need to.
Yeah, it's you can just get an update from me. It's just the PowerPoint presentation on item J1, the pickleball feasibility study. So I don't believe there's any motion or roll call needed. Just a note by me that it's the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, great. Okay. So then moving to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, or do we need to change anything, remove anything? Do I have a motion to approve it?
Make a motion to approve it.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll make a roll call. Commissioner McCauley is absent. Commissioner Almeida is absent. Commissioner Arata.
Present. Jacob said he's trying to log on now.
Yeah, he's on. I see him.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I'm sorry. Let's go. Commissioner Arata on the consent calendar.
Yay.
Commissioner Escontrias.
Yay.
Commissioner Lang.
Yay.
Commissioner Varvarigos.
Yes.
And Chair Super.
Aye. Okay, so now we also need to approve the minutes from the June meeting, I believe. So can I get to approve the minute?
Chair Super, if I may interject, that was actually on the consent calendar, so you just approved them.
Oh, we did. Oh, okay. All right. So then I guess we can move then to public participation on non-agenda items. Is that right?
That's correct. And I would just remind anybody from the public that would like to comment on item J1, the pickleball feasibility study, that's an agenda item, and you'll be able to comment on it after the commission receives the presentation tonight.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is only, you'll have 3 minutes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda during this, this section. So do we have any of those?
There are no e-comments or no attendees for this item. Thank you.
Okay, great. Moving right along. Do we have anything under I, items continued from previous agendas?
No, Chair, we don't have anything under I, and we don't have anything under J either.
Okay, well then we move very quickly along to J1, pickleball, the pickleball feasibility study.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just do a brief introduction. So as the commission may or not be aware, as part of the fiscal year 21-22 budget, the City Council directed staff to conduct a pickleball feasibility study. The goal of the study is to work with community stakeholders to provide both short and long-term solutions in identifying potential areas for pickleball courts in Redondo Beach. The city has obtained the services of a landscape architect, Hirsch and Associates, to assist with the study. We have Chuck Foley of Hirsch and Associates with us tonight to make a brief presentation on a draft scope of work for the feasibility study. And at the conclusion of his presentation, we would love to take questions and hear feedback from the commission before opening it up to public comment. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Chuck.
Hi, everybody. Chuck Foley with Hirsch and Associates. I'll go through, I'm going to share my screen here and briefly walk you through this. It's short. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's go back here again. How are we looking now?
Yes. Yes.
There you go.
Okay. Right, so Cameron and Wingy had spoken with me about looking at pickleball in the city. We've done, Hirsch and Associates, myself, I've done quite a bit of work in the city. We did a bunch of master planning and study work for Molby and a hand launch over there, and we were working in King Harbor with Noble Consultants on a bunch of studies for boat launch and Seaside Lagoon. We've done some work with the city on the trails on the north side of the city, up underneath the power lines, the SCE right of way, and we've done some various irrigation studies for the city and some streetscape master planning. So I'm familiar with the city and have been in front of many of the stakeholders, not the pickleball group, but many others over the years. So happy to be looking at this for the city. let's see here. The task overview essentially, as Karen had mentioned, was to study the possibility of pickleball courts and where could they be sited, where could they be located within the existing facilities. So that's where we pick up. We've just started the project, so we haven't done any study yet, any set analysis yet. We're just getting going. But essentially, our project approach, what we'll do is we'll look at existing park sites and look for, existing sport courts or hard courts that would fit a pickleball court on it. And when we look at those, we'll also want to talk to park programming folks, recreation folks, to find out what programs, if any, are run on those courts. Are there any day camps or something of that nature that uses that particular amenity? We'll also look at locations in the parks for new courts. So it would be a exclusive use of a pickleball court. And when we look at each park for that exclusive use court, essentially we'll want to look at a few different things. There'll be others, I'm sure, as we go through it, but things that come to mind is proximity to the existing residential properties adjacent to the parks. How close is it? Might potentially cause complaints or issues with noise. Is there existing parking at the facility, at the park? If we're adding an amenity, is that something to be considered? Lighting, is there existing, exterior lighting for the facility, for the sport court or courts? If we're looking at tennis courts, then, if there's lighting on those courts, that's sufficient. If we're looking at, somewhere out in the middle of a park in a grass area that has area lighting for walkways and safety, that's really not sufficient for nighttime play. So that'll be something to be considered. Path of travel and connectivity to other features in the park. So many times you'll try to cluster different uses in kind of the same area so you can maximize sports lights or lighting. Is the location readily accessible? Is it a little patch of flat grass, but to get there you've got some, let's just say major slope issues or something, then that's something we want to consider. Site suitability, so dimensions, looking for areas that would site a pickleball or pickleball courts, plus path of travel, plus is there seating associated with it, drinking fountain, that kind of thing. Trees would come into play. Trees are a sensitive subject these days with drought, and people wanted to protect that asset. So, trees would probably be something you wouldn't want to remove or install a court underneath a tree that might damage or impact the tree, or leaf litter on the sport court itself. Does that, create slip issues and playability issues? Slope, drainage, visibility to the public right of way, of course. If the courts have fencing around them and there's wind screening, police department is certainly going to want to be aware, be able to look and police those courts, see if there's somebody, setting up residence on the court behind the wind screening, that sort of stuff. So visibility is important. And then any other stakeholder input. So I'm sure there's folks in the community that have strong feelings about pickleball and where they might or might not want one. There may be questions about the size of the facility and, how do you site a pickleball court on existing sport courts? There's safety considerations to be, to be considered. Proximity of light poles, fencing. Cameron had shared some email that had come to him previously, and there was some concern about maybe folks who aren't quite familiar with pickleball and trying to create or could create a condition that's not really playable. My knee-jerk reaction on that was, maybe trying, for an example, would be trying to get too many pickleball courts, let's just say on a tennis court, and having enough runoff and really runoff is safety area beyond the touch line of the court that allows you to, not get hurt if you're running for a ball. Generally, so, that's things we'll be looking at, but our scope of work for the contract would be, obtaining any existing documentation that the city might have, record drawings, as-built drawings, that sort of thing from the park. Looking at utilities, if that information is available, so that you're not placing a new court over, let's just say, a sewer line or that sort of thing. We'll photo document, the locations of consideration so that can be something that's viewed and visible from a meeting standpoint, or if somebody's looking at a report at a desk or something, they can get an idea of what we're looking at. And then we'll, we're not doing construction plans or that sort of thing. This is a study. So we'll use readily available aerial imagery of the parks, and we'll overlay a scaled courts on that aerial imagery and create the illustration that way. So people will be able to understand and see how that court fits within the park itself. We'll also include some cost estimates. So we can talk about new courts, how they're constructed, concrete or asphalt. Are they? Do they have? It's called court. There's court systems so that they're colored and they have a bit of a surfacing on there. You see tennis courts have it, basketball courts have it. So, are they just simple concrete with white stripe painting, or are they more colorful and have a attraction system on them? And so we can present kind of a menu or a laundry list of amenities that could be considered with a cost, so that when you're looking at facilities and looking at making a decision, you have a rough order of magnitude of what they cost. And then, of course, attending the Park and Rec Commission meeting tonight, and then potentially a community meeting at a date to be determined. Could be in person or could be Zoom, that sort of thing. And then we just walking through the project preliminarily, we were thinking that Anderson Park and Alta Vista Park would be potential candidates for a sport court. You've got existing tennis courts there. There's certainly open turf area that you could probably site a pickleball court or two within. So there's opportunity there. Franklin Park and Dominguez Park as well. So both of those facilities look like they, on the surface, they have what looks like good bones to potentially site a pickleball court. At Dominguez, we know with the power lines that siting a court below those power lines would not be acceptable, just from experience and throughout the city elsewhere, where we know that they've gotten away from putting recreation amenities underneath power lines that promote folks to linger. But there's certainly other areas at Dominguez that we might be able to get a court in there or courts in there. And then, comments from stakeholders or commissioners at other parks that we should be looking at. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. I can leave my screen up if you like, or I could take it back down and we can have questions and answers and that sort of stuff too.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chair. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for that presentation. And yeah, I'm sure we have some questions. before we move to, public participation on this item. Okay, let me see here, because I'll look for hands up here. Okay, I didn't see who was up first, so we'll just go with Commissioner Lang first.
Okay, so I know you asked for questions, but I guess this is more of a comment about Alta Vista. I don't know if, sorry, that was my son. I'm not sure if you visited that park, but I've spent an okay amount of time there. And I know that the people that play tennis there, the park is typically full. So I'm curious to see, I don't know if this is going to be like another part of your report, but to touch base with that, with, the office there, and just see if people would be amenable to putting pickleball courts there or changing one of the tennis courts over to a pickleball court, because I could imagine that they wouldn't be super excited about that. And then you said something about turf at Alta Vista, and I'm wondering where you're talking about specifically, because I'm not sure. I know there's some grassy area if you're looking at the courts sort of on the left side, and that I know that gets a lot of use with the different sports leagues that play there. So anyways, that was my question and slash comment.
Yeah, that's a good comment. And that's, as I mentioned before, part of that fact finding is to, understand what sort of programming is out there. There's any project that we do, this case it's pickleball, but in other cases it's soccer versus baseball versus lacrosse. We've just done a project. We're doing a project where we've got a soccer field and we've got rugby groups that are suddenly vocal on it, wanting to come in. So we're quite used to having multiple stakeholders, and certainly people are they don't want to lose. If let's just say the tennis courts there are highly used, then the idea of taking one over or multiple courts over probably doesn't go over well. But we would certainly want to know that. I mean, are they potential locations for pickleball? Absolutely. You can fit more than one pickleball court on a tennis court. Does it make sense from a programming standpoint? Maybe, maybe not. That's what we will, need to find out. I haven't gotten into detail on any of it. This was just broad brush, high level. Let's take a look at parks that potentially could site pickleball. The open grass, I know, is a premium, for all sports. I'm an ex-coach for my kids and spent a lot of time on just patches of grass in open parks doing, the various sports. So even if it isn't program space from a standpoint of having a permit for AYSO or Little League or, flag football or something to that effect, it's probably used by the community for just open recreation. So all that needs to be considered. But, the first thing would be to identify locations where you could fit one, and then what goes on in that location or locations, and would you be displacing something? So it's just it's kind of a matter of fact finding, and then making sure that the location makes sense. So it's a good comment and well noted.
It looks like next we have Commissioner Escandrias.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My big question here is the idea is there's an indication that there are people that want this. My concern would be how many people want this, and have we identified them? Because my concern is that if you've got 30, 40 people say, hey, this is a great idea, and then we start implementing it and start putting a lot of money out there, and then suddenly then it is not either utilized as much, or we don't plan on if we get a major influx of people, no problem. I would wonder that if somehow that there's a petition, a list of people that we could look to. That way, if we do displace people, we can say, well, unfortunately, that your activity is not as popular as this activity, and now we have facts in numbers, real numbers with real people behind them to justify the spending of this money. Again, the city has a couple of times have made a few laws and things like that suddenly not looking down at the end as to what impact it's going to have after pushing money out. But I'm kind of curious as to how many people have actually said they would like this. Do we know?
I'll take that one, Chuck. Because Commissioner Escontrias, yeah, we've had an overwhelming outcry for pickleball courts. I've had, and you'll see when we get to public comment after the commission has their chance to ask questions. We have several people waiting to comment on this tonight, and I have received several e-comments. And the city council has received an overwhelming outcry from the public. We have many residents playing pickleball courts on temporary courts already in our parks. And the council has directed us to look into this based on that overwhelming outcry. So,
okay, with all due respect, sir, I would wonder if this possibility is a little bit more quantification of the number. So overwhelming could be 100, it could be 500, it could be 10. I'm just kind of curious as that, so that if there is an issue later on, that we can say that we looked at this and not just the term, which is very vague, is overwhelming. So we can say we've got 45 emails, 20, 30, 40 people, whatever else, then we can look to that in order to justify the number. Again, the vagueness of numbers sometimes can be problematic later on when there's an issue and come to find out that is actually only 10 people.
Yeah, I think ultimately we can probably come up with some numbers, but I think most importantly, it's important to remember that we've received direction from the city council to do this. So the council has directed us to do this. Down the road, we can certainly do our best to quantify that, and I think that's a valid request. But first and foremost, as a staff, we've been directed by the city council to look into this, to work with Chuck to conduct this study, and so that's the direction we've taken.
Then is it possible then for the staff during the study is to add some numbers of what you've received and then and such in order to indicate that was a factor in the study?
That the council direction was?
No, that when you return it back to the council saying, this is, rather than go back to the council and say, hey, overwhelming a whole bunch of people wanted this, we can say, based on the numbers that we received, and what, again, a number that kind of puts it to that, so that, and I'm not trying to say pass the buck, you could just basically say, this is a number we received, or you encourage people, hey, if you'd like this, send us an email, so now we can quantify this and justify what we're doing. That's all. I mean, if the council doesn't want to kind of look at the number because, one person or two people like something, I think we're doing a disservice to our community if we're not quantifying something to justify expenditures.
Okay, duly noted. We have some pickleball folks on the line tonight. Great. And some folks have reached out to me, and so I'm sure we can work with them and come up with some way to quantify those numbers.
Thank you.
Just to interject for a second, those of us who have been on this commission for a while, the history of this is that, this has come to us at least one, or for sure one, possibly more than once. And we have heard presentations before, and kudos to the pickleball enthusiasts in Redondo Beach, because they do keep bringing it back to us and bringing it back to the council over the past several years. So just a little history behind that. Okay, next I think was Commissioner Arata.
Hello, good evening. I just had a question for Chuck, just at a glance, and I know you're just still in the planning phase. When you showed the two maps that you just first put on, Franklin, just as a rough draft, where do you think you would place that pickleball court?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't.
That's what I think you answered before.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez is next.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Chuck. I appreciate it. And remember the first time the council hall was flooded with pickleball enthusiasts, and that was before COVID. And it really was packed full of people in support of the sport. And I recall that they in that meeting, when they presented the sport, they did hand us out a packet of statistics, local statistics, as far as the sport, how many people in the area support the sport. And I believe there was at least 50 people in the room in support of it that were there, and they waited long. It was a long meeting until the very end of the night. And so it has been a few years in the working. And I know that we have already been looking at different sites throughout the city, and there's been issues in the past. But so I'm glad to see it come back around. I personally played pickleball for my first time in St. George a few years back, and it's a very easy, fun, inclusive sport. And but I totally understand that we don't want to take away resources from other sports communities like tennis, for instance, that have limited resources. And so I'm glad that we are looking to make additional resources for the pickleball community. I do see I think the nearest court is in Manhattan Beach, and it's always packed, it's always full, and everybody travels to it. And so we know that the community is a vibrant one, and by establishing a court in our city, we're also attracting, not only giving a home for the community, pickleball community in Redondo, but all around. And it's a very fun, connected community. So I think Cameron, I'm sure they could probably send us that info that they sent us, because they had a lot of statistics that would probably be helpful moving forward. I'm questioning on some of the locations. Personally, I like Anderson Park because it's so close to where I live. It is a park that's very jam-packed with other amenities, and I think it could work there. It would be a really good community for it if the we could find the right way to puzzle piece it in. I think there may be enough space in Anderson Park, whereas some of the other parks are a little smaller. Chuck, I was going to ask, could you put up the maps of the locations just so I could reference it really quick?
Yeah. Let's see here. You able to see that?
Yeah, so Dominguez Park, okay, and Franklin Park, and then the other page shows Anderson, and was it another one?
Alta Vista.
Alta Vista. And I know that Alta Vista is like a leading location for a community garden as well, where Dominguez Park seems like it has a lot of space to it, but also from things I understand, there may be a lot of more costly to put it there, just to build trails, ADA access and stuff, but maybe it's simple. So I'm definitely open. I think North Redondo, Central Redondo, like Dominguez Park is a good location if we're only going to have one amenity for the whole city. You can throw one in North Redondo, but then that's further away. It's like 15 minutes away from everybody else. So while I personally would prefer it in Anderson Park, I think it could work. Having a central location like Dominguez Park might be good. So those are all my comments, really. I'm interested in seeing how the report comes back, and one more comment was just on landscaping, and if there could be a note put in there, whatever the landscaping is moving forward. We talked about trees a little bit, but if there could be a consideration put in there for native landscaping, conversation we have frequently with the city arborist, and so there could be specific plants. If we're going to put plants in there, we could put plants in that really help our biodiversity out, and it could be a simple thing like that. So, but yeah, that's all I had to say. Thanks, guys.
Any other commissioners have any comments? Commissioner Arata, did you have another question or comment?
No, thank you.
Okay, so then I think we're moving on then to public comments. Is that correct?
Yeah, why don't we do comments that are on the line first? So I think we have our city clerk here who will do that. And then after we go through those, I can handle the e-comments we received.
Hello.